Commander Zara stood frozen in the medical bay of the human vessel as her entire body trembled with pain. She had never known before. The small cut on her arm from the training accident was barely visible, but the agony that radiated through her nervous system made her want to scream. She was a decorated warrior of the Keltharian Empire and had fought in 17 major battles without flinching, but this tiny wound on human territory was breaking her resolve. The human medic named Amy approached with a concerned expression on her face, and Zara tried to maintain her composure even as tears formed in her violet eyes. Amy gently examined the wound and spoke in that soft manner humans seemed to favor when dealing with pain, and Zara found herself both comforted and embarrassed by the attention. The medic explained that the gravity on this human station was significantly higher than what Zara was accustomed to, and that everything from injuries to illness would feel more intense. Here Zara had read the reports about Earth and its unusual gravitational pull, but experiencing it firsthand was completely different from reading numbers on a datapad. Her species had evolved on a world where gravity was 60% of what humans called normal, and their bodies had developed accordingly with lighter bones and more sensitive nervous systems. Humans, on the other hand, had evolved in what Zara could only describe as a crushing hellscape, where the very planet tried to squeeze the life out of everything on its surface. Amy began treating the wound with a clear gel that immediately started reducing the pain, and Zara felt a wave of relief wash over her, followed quickly by curiosity. The human medic chatted casually as she worked, and mentioned that she had once broken her leg in 3 places during a hiking accident and had walked 2 miles to get help. Zara stared at Amy in disbelief, because an injury like that would have left any Keltharian completely immobilized and likely in shock from the pain alone. Amy laughed at Zara's expression and said that humans were pretty tough when it came to dealing with physical trauma, and that their pain tolerance was higher than most species. Zara had heard rumors about human durability, but had dismissed them as exaggerations spread by species who wanted to make themselves feel better about losing battles to humans. Now she was beginning to wonder if those stories were not exaggerations at all, but rather understatements of what humans could actually endure. The medical bay doors opened, and Captain Lisa entered with her usual confident stride that made her seem larger than her modest human height. Lisa asked how the patient was doing, and Amy reported that the wound was minor and would heal completely within a few days, with proper cares. Ira felt embarrassed that such a small injury had caused her to need medical attention, and she tried to stand up to show that she was fine now. The moment she put weight on her legs, the room spun, and she found herself being steadied by both Amy and Lisa as they guided her back to the medical bed. Lisa explained that Zara's body was still adjusting to the station's gravity, and that it was normal for off-worlders to experience dizziness and weakness during the first few weeks. Zara protested that she was a warrior and needed to return to her duties, but Lisa firmly told her that she was staying in medical bay until Amy cleared her for duty. The captain's tone left no room for argument, and Zara found herself complying with the order despite her frustration at being sidelined by something as simple as gravity. Over the next few hours, Zara observed the humans going about their duties on the station and began to notice patterns that both fascinated and terrified her. A maintenance worker named Betty came into medical bay with a deep cut on her hand that was bleeding profusely, and she was joking with Amy about being clumsy. The wound required 12 stitches, and Betty sat there calmly chatting about her weekend plans while Amy sewed her flesh back together without any anesthetic beyond a local numbing agent. Sarah watched in horrified amazement as Betty thanked Amy and went right back to work as if nothing had happened. Another human named Chris arrived with what he described as a mild headache, and Amy diagnosed him with a concussion from bumping his head on a low pipe. Chris seemed annoyed by the diagnosis and argued that he had work to finish, but Amy insisted he rest for at least 6 hours before returning to duties. Era realized that what humans considered a mild injury would be catastrophic for her people, and that their baseline for normal was completely different. She began to understand why humans had been so successful in their expansion across the galaxy. Despite being relative newcomers to interstellar travel, they came from a world that was actively hostile to life, and they had not just survived, but thrived and developed technology that let them leave that world behind. Their bodies were built to withstand punishment that would kill most other species, and their minds seemed to treat serious injuries as mere inconveniences. As the day progressed, Zara's pain subsided, and she found herself able to move around the medical bay without feeling like she might pass out. Tommy brought her a meal that was specially prepared to account for Caltharian dietary needs, and Zara was surprised by how thoughtful the gesture was. The food was bland compared to what she was used to, but it was nourishing, and she found herself feeling stronger. After eating, Lisa returned in the evening to check on her and brought a datapad with information about human physiology that she thought might help Zara understand what she was experiencing. Zara read through the files with growing disbelief as she learned about human bone density, muscle composition, and pain tolerance levels. Humans had evolved to hunt prey by literally running it to death over distances that would kill most species from exhaustion alone. Their bones were dense enough to support their body weight, and high gravity in their muscles could generate force that seemed impossible for their size event. Their healing abilities were remarkable, with humans able to recover from injuries that would be permanently crippling to Zara's people. Lisa explained that the Caltharian Empire had requested an exchange program to improve relations between their species, and that Zara had been chosen because of her exemplary service recorder. The goal was for Zara to learn about human military tactics, and for humans to learn about Caltharian combat philosophy and strategic thinkings. Zara had been honored by the selection, but now she wondered if she was physically capable of keeping up with her human counterparts. Lisa seemed to sense her doubt, and told her that every species had strengths and weaknesses, and that humans were not invincible, despite their impressive durability. The captain mentioned that Caltharians had reflexes and sensory perception that far exceeded human capabilities, and that their ability to process complex spatial relationships was unmatched. Zara appreciated the attempt to boost her confidence, but she could not shake the feeling that she was fundamentally outmatched in this environment. The next morning, Amy cleared her for light duty, and Zara reported to the training center, where she would begin learning human combat techniques. She was greeted by Lieutenant Kate, who would be her primary instructor for the duration of her stay on the station. Kate was a combat veteran who had served in multiple conflicts, and her friendly demeanor put Zara somewhat at ease. Training session began with basic conditioning exercises that Kate described as a warm-up routine. Within 10 minutes, Zara was breathing hard, and her muscles were burning from the effort of moving her body through exercises that Kate performed effortlessly. Kate noticed her struggling and immediately adjusted the routine to account for the gravity difference, and Zara felt both grateful and embarrassed by the accommodation. They moved on to hand-to-hand combat techniques, and Zara quickly discovered that her superior reflexes gave her an advantage in anticipating and dodging attacks. However, when she tried to strike back, her blows lacked the force to have much effect on Kate's denser human physiology. Kate taught her how to target vulnerable points where even a lighter strike could be effective, and Zara began to see how different species could fight together effectively. Over the following weeks, Zara gradually adapted to life on the human station, though she never fully adjusted to the oppressive gravity. She learned to pace herself and to use her unique advantages while minimizing her exposure to situations where human durability would be a decisive factor. Her relationship with the crew deepened as she came to appreciate the qualities that made humans such effective allies and such formidable opponents. One day, an emergency alarm sounded throughout the station, and Zara rushed to her duty station, despite knowing she was not fully combat ready. A pirate vessel had attacked a nearby civilian transport, and the human station was the closest military presence capable of responding. Captain Lisa assembled a boarding party to secure the transport and rescue any survivors, and Zara volunteered to join the team. Lisa hesitated, but Zara argued that her sensory abilities would be valuable in searching the damaged vessel, and the captain reluctantly agreed. The boarding party consisted of Lisa, Kate, Amy, and 3 other humans, along with Zara, making her the only non-human on the team. They suited up in combat armor, and Zara was relieved to find that her suit had gravity compensation that reduced the effective pull to something closer to what she was used to. Transit to the damaged transport was tense, and Zara could feel her heart racing as they prepared to breach the hull. Once inside, they found a scene of devastation, with dead civilians scattered throughout the corridors and signs of a violent struggle. everywhere.